Welcome to VistaTalks, interesting discussions with interesting people from all around the world. Hi and welcome to VistaTalks, interesting discussions with interesting people from all around the world. I'm your host from today, Priscillia Charles, and today we're joined by Yuka Nakasone. Welcome, Yuka. Thanks for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Very welcome. So, Yuka is a Globalization Localization Director at Biglu, and we'll be going through Yuka's career background and views on localization today. So let's get on with the show. So Yuka, could you take us through your educational and career background, please, taking us all the way up to your current position?
Okay, it's a long story. Maybe I can write a novel, but I try to summarize. I am Japanese, born in Japan, and grew up in Japan until I graduated from university. And I went to Tokyo to study Spanish studies. Until then, I grew up in a town 100 kilometers north from Tokyo, rural area, and without anything to do with foreign countries, foreigners, other cultures. But somehow I dreamed of living overseas when I was grown up.
Yeah.
And maybe because of the TV series I was watching from the States or from UK, and I really dreaming of studying English, and I went to Tokyo to study Spanish studies, and then
no worries at all. So you went to Tokyo to study. What university was this?
I went to a university called Tokyo University of Foreign Studies. Mm-hmm. That's one of the best universities in Japan in terms of languages. Mm-hmm.
And there you did a bachelor's degree in Spanish?
Yeah, I studied Spanish studies, and after I graduated from the university, instead of going to the corporate world in Japan, which my professor really wanted, I went off to Madrid to study because I wanted to perfect my Spanish.
Yes.
I started to learn Spanish when I was 18 years old.
Oh, wow.
So graduating from university with a degree didn't mean that I could speak fluently.
Yes.
I could read without any problem. It was not that. So I just wanted to perfect my Spanish, and I went off to Madrid.
You went off to Madrid. And what about when you finished your after Madrid? You went to the United States, I understand.
Yes. In Madrid, I had a very interesting job after a year of study. It was not about languages because it was a real estate business, doing big projects like resort project or building project. But I was the only one who could speak 3 languages they used.
Of course.
English, English, Japanese, and Spanish. And I was very young, but I realized that senior people really started to rely on me because my language skills. And there I understood the importance of languages and understanding culture and how I have to interpret the culture in the negotiation and advise the senior people, not just interpreting literally, but advising. Maybe Spanish people are saying this, maybe this means that, and probably you have to respond in this way.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So that was the start of my language career, but I couldn't throw out my dream of going to the States. So when the chance came, I just took a risk and I went to Boston to study.
That's wonderful.
And at the end of the study, it was just a 6-month summer course, but within 6 weeks, I got a job.
Wow.
And they wanted even quit the summer school to go to work, but I didn't have the work permission, so I said, wait, I'm going to finish study, and then I go back to Japan, get the visa, and come back and work.
And you stayed a little bit in Boston then, but then you came back to Japan, but then you went to Spain as well. I mean, considering your current position now.
In terms of business, I loved it. It was a mixture of technology, languages, and people. So I really loved the localization business, but somehow knowing how European people or Spanish people lived across the pond, across the Atlantic, I was not sure if my nice and convenient American life was really good for me or not.
See. Yeah, you wanted a sort of a challenge. You wanted to see what could be, you know, what could come next, you know.
Yeah.
So that kind of brings it very interesting. That kind of brings me up to my next question. So we're talking about Spanish. Why this love of Spanish in the first place? Why choosing Spanish and not, I don't know, German or I don't know, any other language?
It's a very good question because I learned a lot when I chose Spanish, because as I told you, I was dreaming of continue studying English. I loved American TVCs, UK TVCs, and I'm dreaming of going to foreign countries, but it meant like maybe to the States or to UK. And when I was a high school student, of course we have to choose which course you have to take.
Yes, of course.
As adult, like what you want to continue studying or become as a professional. And I wanted to continue study English, and I talked to my teacher, and he said to me it was a bad idea. It was a really bad idea because as I said to you already, I was from a rural area.
Yes.
My family doesn't any background with foreign cultures, foreigners, blah blah blah. So as much as I loved my English was, studied English. And at that time, Japanese people became very powerful, and they were everywhere in the world. In the States or in UK or in everywhere else, there are lots of people working and living. The consequence was there are lots of bilingual kids growing there. So he said, what are you going to do if you have to compete with all these bilingual child, the bilingual kids that are studying in English and their parents are Japanese? And he said, the value comes where the scarcity is. So you have to think something else.
Bring a third language in the mix,
Yeah. So it was a kind of shock.
Yeah.
Because I was believing that I really can make a living.
Of English.
Yeah.
Yes.
Studying English. But he said, he questioned, he challenged. And I think he was right. So from there, for several weeks, I went to the library every day
Yeah.
and kind of did research by myself. And one day I picked up a book about the United Nations. And they're stating there are 5 official languages other than English. And it just hit me because, okay, value comes from scarcity, but there have to be demand as well.
Yes.
It's a balance of demand and supply. So I can't really learn something that nobody uses for business. For example, I don't know, like Eskimo language. Maybe I can go to a university and research and live in that way. But if I want to live with languages, it doesn't happen. Yeah. So I decided to choose from one of these 5 official languages. And in my mind, it was kind of clear that I want to go to Western Europe. So was French or Spanish. I loved both ideas.
Yes.
Really, both. I really loved. And by default, I'm a very indecisive person. So I put it in life's decision. I took an entrance exam for Spanish studies and French studies. And both universities are very competitive and very difficult to enter. And the same teacher laughed at me. I'm not gonna make it. You're not gonna make it.
But you made it.
Yeah, and I completely believed that one of them or both of them are going to say no. So I was very cool and calm. I don't have to choose. But at the end of the day, I got 2 yes. And there I had a real crisis because I didn't know what to choose.
Yeah.
Because I loved French culture. I loved Spanish culture because I read a lot when I was young, and I really loved both. At the end of the day, what I did was to be practical, thinking about my family and their resources. I chose Spanish studies because it was from State University, and the other French study was from a private university. Yeah. And it was one of the most expensive ones. So I chose Spanish studies, not because I really loved only Spanish, but because of the circumstances. Practical. Yeah.
I see. Yeah.
But our life is very, very interesting because I ended up marrying to a Frenchman.
A Frenchman, yes.
And in the end, I really had to learn French too.
So you speak 4 languages now?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. And my university teacher wouldn't believe because he said, no, you can't handle French and Spanish at the same time.
Well, you certainly proved him wrong.
Yeah.
So, coming back to your current role now, 3 years ago you joined Biblu. You're currently in Barcelona, if I'm right. So, Biblu provides omni-channel digital marketing and analytics solutions for retailers in more than 20 countries in the world. Could you tell us a little bit about the organization, about your role in Biblu?
Okay. About Biblu, it's a very interesting company, founded about 10 years ago, 2008, by a very visionary CEO called Jama Portel. And he had a vision of connecting people by technology and serving to the community. So this is the basic of Biblu, which is still alive right now. And of course, his vision grew by the course of the business, but this is the basic of the basics of Biblu. What Biblu do is, by using digital signage and other technologies, measure the behavior of people, customers or visitors, and reflect the data to your activities, so you can adjust your strategy
according to the data,
almost real time.
That's brilliant.
And in the mix, with the mix of AI right now, it's much easier. Not even have to have people deciding, people choosing, people doing everything. You can just mix with artificial intelligence.
Yes.
And let this part to the technology as well.
Okay. And so that's very interesting. And what about your role specifically in Beerblue?
In Beerblue, my role is to oversee all the localization activities and translation activities in the company, take care of development localization, working with product and development team, and implementing agile localization and implementing our localization process into their own process, so we don't do double work. For example, QA.
Yes.
That if you outsource, maybe we are doing the same thing in two different processes. While QA engineer is doing the QA, maybe linguist is doing the same exact thing.
Yes.
Outside of company. But if we merge it, it's more effective.
Save some time.
Yeah, save some time, and you make sure everything is covered.
Yes.
But not repeating many steps. And this is what I am doing. It's a whole process from designing. Internationalization needs to be done with the team, and then coding and testing and taking care of the customers and taking the requests and evaluating that. And it's a cycle of agile.
It's a whole process.
Yeah, agile development.
Yes.
And I'm trying to integrate agile localization into that. And I'm bringing in a continuous localization process in this mix, so we can do it automatically.
Yes.
And we can do it very efficiently.
Yes, and on a global scale, of course.
Yes.
Yes. So, so that's very interesting. So I understand if you do it on a global scale, you'd have a whole variety of clients, customers. Can you tell us a bit about the different industries and types of clients that you'd be working with?
Okay. Beerblue's clients. Beerblue has a very wide range of customers in terms of sectors, industry, and scale of the business. Because one of the characteristics of Beerblue product is its versatility.
Yeah.
As I said, our technology can be used in an airport, in a retail shop, in an event. Sometimes you don't even have to use the digital signage, because at the end of the day, it's tracking people, right?
Yes.
So, for example, in an event, we can track a flow of people without signage or with the signage, something like that. But we launched a new product mix called Active Customer Intelligence Suite this summer, and this focuses on the retail industry, because we found that retail really could use our technology to grow and to go through the digital transformation.
Yes.
Now it's happening, and they're feeling this transformation very much in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is the focus of Beerblue, but it can be used in any industry.
In many different industries, of course, but
and
for sure.
If I talk about scale,
yes,
we really have wide range of business size, from just one restaurant in Barcelona using our signage and tracking. One restaurant, just a restaurant, right? Or a shop, a store. But at the same time, we're serving to a huge multinational retail chain. So the same product can serve both of them.
Both, yeah, of course. That's great. So speaking about the retail industry, in an interview last year, you were discussing your thoughts on the retail industry, how the landscape is changing. So within the space of a year, what would you have noticed? What have you noticed on the industry? Like what has changed?
If I talk about retail industry, I think we finally saw some implementation and realization of the theories that we talked about a long time, like Amazon launched cashless store.
Yes.
And at the same time, Alibaba was doing something in China, and they're really doing what they were saying we could do, right? So this is what happened this year, I think.
If you talk about future changes coming for the end of 2018 and towards 2019, do you see any particular trends, any new technology that would be impacting retail and e-commerce?
Yeah, what I'm seeing is, depending on the country, the speed is really different, and what they're doing is different. But I think we are changing the way of paying right now. Surprisingly enough, that the most advanced country in this is, I think, it's China.
China, yes.
Which we thought, we thought they were behind several years ago.
Yeah.
We never talked the China being the top of this, but in the reality is they made it happen, and I think this is going to come to the Western world.
Yes.
I'm not sure if it's going to be the same or localized version. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the localized version, because Chinese culture needs to be there to fully take advantage of, for example, WeChat platform that makes people life easier.
Yes, to buy, for instance.
Yeah, to manage everything in their life in one application.
Absolutely.
But if we take this into Western culture, do people want one application to manage our life?
Is this going to work?
Yeah.
Yes, same way.
I think the mentality is a little different, so I don't think it's going to be exactly the same, but maybe this trend of managing most of the part of our life is going to come into the Western world.
Yes, I suppose you really have, the principle of organization really is to adapt the content of anything to a particular locale. So this is what you'd have to do to be able to understand your customers best, to understand what their needs are, to make sure that the app would work, for instance, in its country, because every culture is different.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now they're saying that, okay, China is at the top of the world, the game, but they're saying at the same time, but they're not localizing well into other cultures, and maybe this is true. So they have to localize, study foreign cultures, and bring their technology, but in their customers' way, not their own way.
Yes.
Maybe this is what's going to happen, and maybe this is where we have to serve as a localization professionals.
Yes.
This is what I see now.
And do you see, that's very interesting, do you see this happening in the next 5 years, or what about, I don't know, in the next 20 years? Would you see any type of technology or trend that would be changing everything? Except because we're talking a lot about artificial intelligence at the moment, so that I would say would be a huge factor to this. How would you see this impacting the sector?
Well, artificial intelligence, lots of people in our industry, I mean, in our industry, I have to talk about localization first. In the localization industry, lots of people are afraid of artificial intelligence, but I don't think we have to be scared. And actually, the localization industry is one of the first industries that realized the use of artificial intelligence and started to use in our own business. And the consequence is, who went outside of business? I mean, everybody adjusted. Of course, we had to adjust, we had to adapt, we had to do something else that we were not doing, or we didn't know we could do.
Yeah.
We had to change, but at the end of the day, we adapted. We keep adapting to this new reality that artificial intelligence is taking all these tedious manual work that we had to do before. I mean, if we think about translators' work 10 years ago, there's lots of things that I didn't want to do. I did lots of work as a freelance translator, and now I think of it, I would have welcomed artificial intelligence
To help you.
Yeah.
On a daily basis. Yes.
And
Absolutely.
we have to change the mindset. Instead of saying it's going to take my job or my work, thinking that how can I take advantage of the technology?
Yeah.
And there's always a way to do it. And in the end, artificial intelligence is artificial. It needs somebody to create from the first place and manage.
Yeah, you still need a bit of human skills.
Yeah,
in the background.
until it comes to the point of singularity that they could decide, they could multiply, they could create.
Yeah.
And I think it will come. I don't know when. I mean, you talked about 5 years, 20 years.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes.
I mean, we don't even know what's going to happen
Next year.
Next year.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, in terms of my life or my goal, now I use the format of 90 days. I just plan my 90-day goals.
Yes.
And sometimes I'm wrong in 90 days, 3 months, right? And I look back 3 months, I can see how much I changed, how much everything changed.
Yes.
Things happens in unexpected way.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Changes
So,
fast. Yeah.
1 year, 5 years, 20 years,
Yes.
I can't really predict.
No, I understand. So, speaking of artificial intelligence, how is everything changing? You're saying that people are maybe not considering, or would have not considered AI to help them as a translator. So, would you say it's one of the mistakes that brands could do, for instance, could make when it comes to entering new markets? You know, not taking into consideration assets help they would have from such technologies.
In localization, you mean?
Yeah.
I think it's a mistake not to try. Trying and say no, I think it's valid. But first you have to try and prove yourself you're right.
Yes.
Not to use it.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say you really need to try.
Yes.
And see what happens. And I said in our industry, in terms of artificial intelligence, first I talked about localization, but in retail, it helps a lot as well.
Yes.
What Beoblue brings to the retail world is the same as in localization world. The work we had to do manually and sometimes without the basis of any data, we had to do it intuitively. Now you can take advantage of real-time data, and now you have the intelligence to decide at the moment and change the course of your, for example, in-store marketing. You can rely on the technology to do that.
Yes.
That's what's happening in the retail industry. Absolutely. And you really have to take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
Because doing business, guessing is a wrong strategy. If you can use data
to help you. Yes. Absolutely.
And this is what we do. And Beoblue was founded in 2008, and they started to use big data before all the hype of big data.
Yeah.
And of course, we're using artificial intelligence right now. Much before, people are really integrating this into the real world. That's the reason why maybe Goldman Sachs said that Beoblue is one of the technology to watch for the retail space. And we are really honored to be mentioned in their report last year.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And finally, I wanted to ask you, would you have any other projects that you'd like to share with our audience that you'd be working on at the moment?
Well, my other projects, in terms of localization, I'm really into innovation now. So I'm helping Process Innovation Challenge in localization world, and it's very interesting. It's the front line of the most advanced. So this is what I'm focusing on right now. And at the same time, I came across with some questions from top management, not from Beoblue, but from my friends, about their struggle of managing global team. And it just hit me, like what we do, we localization professional do so well in the marketing, understanding the culture and breaking this culture code and doing things in local markets and taking all the local markets as a global market, building a global brand. This is what we do as localization professional right now. And it just hit me. We're not doing the same great job with the top management.
Yes.
We have to share our experiences and let's see if we can assist them to manage global team efficiently and effectively. And this is what I'm taking a look at aside from all the project I'm doing.
That's brilliant. Well, thanks very much, Yuka. That was fascinating. Thanks for taking the time to be on today's show. And so this is the end of today's show with Yuka Nakasone from Beoblue. We'll be back soon for another VistaTalks show with more interesting discussions with interesting people from around the world.